There we go. All good. Thanks. Okay, so why is club health important? Club health is how we rate our management of the areas that we previously looked at on the other slide. By addressing all these aspects, you'll find that most clubs are more likely to have a stable and happy membership, a strong reputation in the local community, and a set of short and medium term goals. So what is Game Plan itself? So Sport Australia's developed Game Plan, and it's a digital platform designed to provide sporting clubs of all sizes with insights into their current capability and connect them with specific tools, resources to build and support ongoing development. So this will replace, sorry, just let someone back in. This will replace the club health check that some of you guys have might have done in previous years. So what you'll find with the game plan is when club committees move on from your roles, and eventually we'll move on, that the next club committee will have a trusted and consistent plan which allows your club to keep moving forward with where you guys want to go. So the objectives you see on the right there with game plan, so it's kind of overall what it's going to do for your club. So it assesses your club capacity and performance. It identifies areas of improvement. It provides access to resources and support. So we'll see that a bit later. But it's really good that we're not all just starting from scratch. It actually gives us some hints on and some templates on what we can work on, and setting the priority and direction of the club to build and improve going forward. This is just a little screenshot of it, but we'll see this in a lot more detail when we actually pull up the website a little later. Okay, so how does it work? So game plan has 6 steps. You have club profile, priorities, assessment, plan, resources, and monitor. So club profile is pretty simple. That's just setting up a profile for your club, giving some basic contact information about your club. Priorities is the first big area. So priorities is setting what areas as a club do we want to address. Obviously, there's a lot of areas and things we could work on. But it's hard to do that in a year, right? So we need to set priorities to go, okay, what's the most important things we want to work on, and figure out a way how to knock those off. And then in future years, when we keep doing our club health check, we can then bring up the lower priorities up the list. Assessment. So assessment, it's a little odd, I find, because personally, I think if this step was first before priorities, I think it would make a little bit more sense. But assessment is basically, we're looking at what our club is doing at the moment, what we do well, what we do poorly, and then once we've done that, we can then go back and revisit our priorities to decide, again, what's our focus going to be on. So I might, before we jump to the next area, I might talk about the stages. So the stages, obviously, when you guys do game plan yourself, it's up to the clubs how you want to approach things and how you want to do things in your own time. But we have made some suggestions on ways you could go through game plan, so it's not all done at once, that you can do it at stages. So stage 1, so what we're saying are the first couple of months of game plan, is just do your club profile, do your priorities, and do your assessment. So the way we've suggested it, and we'll talk about Deepwater a little later, is what we got them to do was we had them during a club committee meeting. I believe they set a separate meeting themselves just for this. I think they said that it took them just under an hour, and they went as an entire committee. They went through those 3 steps. So they quickly did their club profile. They did set out their priorities initially. They did a full assessment of the club, what they're doing well, what they're not doing well, and then they came back and revisited priorities. And that's all they did. That's all they're going to be doing for the first few months. The next stage for them is what we'll be talking about next, which is stage 2, which is about halfway through the year. So going back to the 6 areas, the next one is plan. So now that we know what our priorities are and we've assessed ourselves, we then start to form a plan on, okay, how are we going to start working at our list of priorities. In conjunction with the plan is a set of resources. So the harbour has some really good resources. So like I said, we're not starting from scratch on what we're doing. So an example of that might be, you might find, okay, our club doesn't have a coaching policy, and we might have had some issues around that in the past. I'm not sure specifically if there's a coaching plan in that resource, but just for an example, that might be something we start to work on, and that could be part of the plan. So we might say, okay, our priority is the coaching plan, this is who's going to do it, and this is when we want it due by. And that can all be recorded in the game plan. So that's stage 2. So again, suggesting that you meet with your committees once again at some point, whether it be adding on to an existing club committee meeting or you have a separate meeting for it. And it's to go through the plan and resources part. So looking back at what we did in priorities and assessment is feeding into our planning. Finally, we have monitor and archive. So this is the last step, and it will probably be the second half of the year for most clubs. Monitor is basically we've got our plan, we've started implementing these things. We are now monitoring how well they're being implemented, and that's pretty much it. Our suggestion again is as this goes on, so the second half of your season or year, when you've got these plans being put in place and you're monitoring them, you'll then start the cycle again. So depends on when everyone starts it, but if you're looking at shortly after your new committees come on board, to me that would make the most sense. So a committee is established, they do the club profile, priorities and assessment. A few months later they're then planning, and then after that they're finishing off by monitoring to make sure those things that they've planned are implemented, and then by then you'll have a couple of new committee members coming on to then review what the previous committee did. So this is just an example. So we had Deepwater do game plan, the first stage already. So Deepwater Dragon Boat Club recently completed their own game plan, and they said, our committee met over Zoom and coffee. We found the health check simple to use and a great visual tool. It offered good insights into the club's current level. We found that we had great foundations while identifying areas where we would like to really excel. The committee picked 4 out of the 13 possible outcomes to improve upon for the season ahead. The resource library that is included will assist the committee in executing the plan that has been set. So what's next? So obviously we'll be hosting this Pals Up session, which we're doing right now. The next stage after this, either later this week or probably early next week, I'll be sending out a big info pack, which will be a summary of what I'm talking about tonight. And just as I went through before, my suggestions on how you can work your way through your own game plan and the links to get yourself set up. Also, we want to make this an ongoing thing, not just something we launch and then forget about. So we will be doing a lot of posts on our social media, and we'll actually be asking clubs to send in their stories and images of them working on their game plan. So if anyone in the next couple of weeks gets started on this process, we'd love you guys to take some photos of you guys working on it so we can share with all the clubs, because we really want people to do this, not just doing it as a bit of homework, but we actually want to help you guys improve your clubs. Some clubs will need this less than others, but I think it's a great tool, and if we can make sure our clubs are going close to 100%, then we can focus on the stuff we want to do, like paddling. So. So we're aiming for all 60 clubs to have at least started game plan by June 2022. So if we can get everyone completing stage 1, which we talked about previously, by then, that would be a good result. All right, so next we're going to take a look at setting up the club profile. I'm sorry, before we go on to that, did anyone have any questions on anything I've said so far? Feel free to unmute yourself. All good? Okay, cool. Okay, so this is the game plan portal. So it'll ask you to create an account. And then once you get in, I think you have to do a confirmation email. It'll ask you to create a club. So we'll just do that as an example. If it's okay with you, Pearl, I might use Pinnacle as an example, and then I'll send you the details later. So just do click here to create a club. It'll ask you to search for the club first. So I'll search for Pinnacle. Yep, so we can see nothing came up. A few other sports are already on there. So we'll click at the bottom here. We'll click create new club. And we'll say, yes, we do want to create a new club. So, Pinnacle Dragons. Dragon Boating is already there. So if you click the little search icon, type in Dragon at the top, you'll see Dragon Boat Racing's in there. And we hit select, and then we go to our state, and we pick New South Wales. It might give you a warning saying there might be other clubs. We can quickly see, and from our search before, that there's no Pinnacle Dragons isn't created. So just so it's not confusing, we then have to hit this button down here just below those numbers that says create new club. And it'll just take a few seconds to create the club and set our profile up. Wendy, that's fine. I'll send it out. Or you can Google it yourself if you want to get started. So just search game plan in Google and it should come up. Otherwise, yeah, if I can't get it out later this week, I'll try and get it out early next week. But yeah, feel free to search it yourself if you'd like, so you can get started. So that should be done. We've got Pinnacle Dragons at the top here. And this is it. This is game plan. So we saw those 6 steps before. So the first step would be club profile. Oops. Already did that. Should be taking me to club profile. I might just have to confirm it via email. Just let me double check that. Okay, no worries. I think you get a confirmation email. It shouldn't take too long, but once you hit confirm, you should be able to access all areas, which I have another one that I prepared earlier, so you should be able to see that. So this one is just for Dragon Boats New South Wales, so it's not a club, but I've used it just as a demonstration. So here's the club profile. Again, very, very basic information: club name, the sport, a contact email address, just a bunch of basic questions on your club. Workforce. So a good reason to fill out this info is because Sport Australia use it for their own sport reporting, so they can get an insight on where our sport's at. We usually do this on everyone's behalf with the Office of Sport, but as this is a national system, this gives the national sporting body a good insight as well into how dragon boating works and what we're up to. So as we said, we'll quickly go through these areas just to give you a quick snapshot. Priorities. So there's the 13 areas that Deepwater mentioned. Basically, the first time they came in here, they picked what they thought would be ordered by most important to least important. Hit save and continue next. And then the next chunky phase is the assessment phase. Just load. So how they've broken it up is they've got these different areas that are set by your priorities. So at the moment, diversified partnerships is a top priority for our club here. And they each one have different assessments. So you go through the assessments, a couple of minutes on each, and that's for your own club. So we complete all that. Yep. And that's all. That's stage 1. So once we've done each assessment for all the modules, again, if you do have low priority modules and you think, okay, well, realistically, we're not going to be able to complete them this season, then I think it's fine if you want to skip that over for next time and just focus on the foundation modules, which is very important, and then the top priority modules at first. And that's it for stage 1. So, and then later on, if we're moving on to stage 2. It's got all the information, the assessment information we provided previously. It's ordered here. And then again, it asks, why is it important for your club? When do you want to deliver it? Who's responsible for it? All those kind of things. And it's all in a nice ordered way. So once you've set your priorities and you've done the assessment modules, it will order it for you. Once that's done, you can hit finish and monitor plan, or you can also go up to monitor. And as you're working through the items that you've set for yourselves and ticking off on them, they'll start to show up in this area. Again, so what it is, why is it important, the date, delivering, responsibility, and its current status you can set as you go. So that's the monitor and monitor stage. The archive stage is once you're completely done with something, an area, we can go tick where it's done and it goes into the archive area, so we don't have to pay attention to it when we come back again. Sorry, I'm just going to read this question. Wendy, I think with the assessment stage that it's probably best to be committed by everyone in your club committee. Again, it's up to you guys how you want to do it, but our suggestion is mostly is to get the entire club committee to do it, because my fear is, and I think we got this a little bit with the previous club health checks, if you were just getting, say, the president or the secretary to do it by themselves, it was kind of something that was a bit of just homework. We get it done and then you put it in the drawer, and then it's not something that got worked on. While if you can get a buy-in from everyone on the club committee, then I think you get a lot better result out of it. Not saying you have to do that, but yeah, if you might, that would be our suggestions if you get the club committee to do it. I don't think you don't need your entire membership to do it. So if you've just got your average Joe paddler, unless they want to be involved with it, I don't think you need to get them involved in it. It's mostly just something for the club committee. Last thing we'll look at is just the resources section. So as I said, they have a bunch of really good templates for anything we need. So good one here, social media policy. So if we've decided, look, we have some issues with our members and how they communicate on social media at times, I can go here and look at the template social media policy. Okay, so it's just a download. We'll just open that. And here's our template policy that we can work off, so we don't have to, start from scratch or rewrite the wheel, which is quite good. Lots of areas: finance, governance, strategy, participation. If there's anything that's not here, please contact us and let us know what you're looking at doing, and we'll see what we can do. It could be something we already have or something we can help you develop. So for example, a Dragon Boat coaching policy might be quite specific to our sport. Email us and we can start to look how we work on, because that's obviously something that can be shared amongst all the clubs and will be useful to all clubs if we could do some template like that. Yeah, I don't like writing policies either, Estrella, but it's good that we have this. And that's basically it. So does anyone have any further questions on this, or any other areas you want to have a closer look at, or are we all pretty happy with that?
I'm happy with it.
All good?
Looks very useful, thank you.
Yeah, and I think it's a bit more user-friendly than the previous one. So if anyone did the last one a few years ago, I think it looks a lot nicer. I'd say the only functionality it doesn't have is that one had, when you completed it, it gave you a nice report. It was a bit long, but it gave you a report on a rating system. There's no actual rating system for this. So there's no one competing for best marks or anything. We are doing some assessing of ourselves and prioritizing, but so I guess the next thing for us, and something we're still talking about, is how to keep checking in with you guys as we go. So we might, not anytime soon once we get this out, but maybe in a couple of months' time, we might just get in touch with everyone and just see how they're going. Hopefully you guys have got started. If not, we'll ask you what we can do to help you get started. If we need to hop on a club meeting, if that's easier, I'd like to help you drive this. We're more than happy to do that and make the time for it. As I said during the AGM, my role has changed a bit, and now that we've managed to get a part-time events person, it's freed up a lot of our time and resources, so I can put a lot more focus on club health, and that's a massive priority for our organisation and for the board. So if you need any help, please reach out. Okay, well, if everyone's happy with that, and if no one has any final questions, we'll wrap it up there. And yeah, like I said, I'll try and get an info pack out to all the club committees later this week, and then hopefully you can get started.
Hey, Ramsay, could I just ask?
Yep.
So obviously we relate to you and we'll talk to you, and I definitely am putting my hands up to ask you to come in on a club meeting.
Yep.
Do you have access to anything we put into the Sports Oz?
I don't. What you can do, actually, let me just share my screen again. I don't have access, but you can add me if you like. So up here in the top right, there's a thing called My Club Users.
Right.
And you can add anyone you want. So obviously got our ex-CEO there at the moment. But yeah, so if you wanted to, you can add me in as either approved or a super user. Once you add people as a user, they can see all this information and they can fill out this information. Cool. So I'm more than happy for you to add me as an approved user. And I can take a look at what you guys are working on or help you work on it. And the same goes for the rest of your committees. If you guys want everyone on your committee to have access to it so they can work on their respective areas, you can do that as well.
Thank you.
That was a good one, Wendy, because that's something I wanted to point out earlier.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if that's it, we might leave it there. Thanks, everyone, for coming, and yeah, we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Ramsay.
Thanks, everyone.
Ramsay.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers. Thank you.